Great. Well, welcome to everyone. And make yourself comfortable, find your seat, situate yourself in a way that your spine is aligned and you feel both comfortable and alert. Especially want to find a position that allows you to align your head, neck, and trunk. Give your spine room to be comfortable and at the same time erect and aligned. So when you find your posture, you can close your eyes. Close your eyes and notice any areas in your body which are tense or tight, where you are holding tension. And just give those areas permission to relax. We don't always realize that when we are tense, we're actually actively contracting muscles and exerting effort. And it's often a relief to notice the areas that are tight or tense and then realize that, oh, I don't have to exert. I can let that effort go and just release that. And every bit of tension that we release, of course, improves our clarity and our enjoyment of our meditation. So wonderful. After you do that little survey of different parts of your body, and you feel like you've got your posture situated in a way that's optimal for tonight. Then you can begin to turn your attention to your breath. So our meditation tonight is an exploration of who am I? Or maybe Who am I? With the second inflection meaning, maybe I'm not exactly what I had assumed. Maybe I'm not exactly who I had assumed I was. So this is an exploration of who am I? So part of who I am is my breath. So let's just focus on the breath for a little while. Just notice what's happening with your breath. Notice the rate, the rhythm, and especially what part of your body expands when you inhale, and which parts of your body don't expand when you inhale. Just noticing what you can about the breath and which parts of yourself you are breathing or allowing to be breathed, and which parts of yourself are not getting breath, not getting the expansion and contraction, the inflow of oxygen and vitality. Is the expansion of your chest in the front part of your chest or the rear? The back, into your back? Does the breath expand your back? Is it equal on each side? Do the upper parts of your lungs expand? Does the expansion move down into your abdomen? How far does it extend? Does the expansion and contraction reach down into your pelvis, pelvic cavity? Can I notice a difference between the parts that are expanding and contracting with the breath and the parts of my body that are not? When I ask, who am I? Am I only those parts that are breathed and breathing and moving and filled with vitality? Am I also those other parts that I'm not sending breath to? And what if I allow breath into those parts? Do they wake up and become part of who I am? More a part of who I am? Just observing the breath. Allowing the breath. Allowing it to suffuse as much of yourself as you can. Breathing into unbreathed areas may actually change your definition of who you are. Now let's begin to follow the breath up the spine. You might say the breath doesn't move through the spine. But the energy that is produced by the breath actually does move through the spine, through the spinal cord. So as we inhale, there's a surge of energy moving into different parts of the body, and especially up the spine. So just as you inhale, follow up the spine with your attention, allowing your attention to sweep up the spine as you inhale, timing it so that your attention reaches the top of your head at the peak of inhalation. And then following back down on exhalation. Timing it so that your breath, your attention reaches the lower tip of the spine as the breath is completely exhaled. the end of exhalation. So you might try allowing the breath to find its own rate and rhythm, and its own areas to expand and contract. And you pace your shift of attention to match that. So you're allowing the breath, but you're following with the attention to keep pace with the breath. So, who am I? Am I the one who is breathing, is regulating the rhythm and rate of the breath? Am I the one who is observing, sweeping my attention up and down? And now we're going to add the sound that we've done before in this series on health and serenity. Imagining the sound so as we inhale, as the attention sweeps up the spine, and then imagine the sound hum as we exhale and the attention sweeps down the spine. So just stay with that for some breaths. Inhaling so and exhaling hum. If your attention wanders away from that, just bring it back. So once you've established the rhythm of this practice of Soham, coordinated with the breath, then you can begin to explore a little bit. How far up does the so go when you inhale? Up to the center of the skull, up to the crown of the head, above the crown of the head. Just don't push it. Just gently probe the upper limits of that so. Exploring the extreme upper reaches of so. You stay with that for a few moments. What do I feel like when I reach that upper point with so? Good. Now let's begin to follow the downward exhalation with hum to the lower end of the spine. Inhaling up with so, exhaling down with hum. Noticing what happens when we get to the lower end of the spine, the end of exhalation. Shifting our focus to explore the lower extreme of this spinal pathway. And then let's kind of explore a little bit, going a bit further down with the hum. Like maybe past the tailbone, maybe on down a bit. See what that feels like. Not forcing it, but just gently probing the limits of the bottom. Inhaling up with so, exhaling down with hum. Stay with that a little bit. Your attention wanders, bring it back. And now what happens if I go a little further down on the end of exhalation toward connecting with the earth? Moving through what we call the root chakra, to root myself in the earth. So who am I when I drop down and connect with the earth? And now following all the way back up. Moving up to the crown of the head and perhaps a bit beyond, where I'm reaching toward unitary consciousness or super consciousness or awareness of being one with everything. moving upward with soul, upward, reaching gently upward toward oneness. Notice the difference. So who am I when I reach upward and get a taste of oneness? Who am I then? Who am I? And now let's take a moment to run the whole gamut of that from soul upward, hum downward, noticing the difference between being the oneness and being an separate individual connected to the earth. So you might visualize that suspended in that space between soaring up into oneness and that movement down into embodied life on earth. Between those two hangs the question, who am I? Mm. And now allowing your attention to drift up toward the heart center or down toward the heart center. And let it come to rest there at the heart. And settling in at the heart for a moment. So the heart is halfway between the upward connection and the downward connection. It's sometimes said that the heart is where we experience the agony and the ecstasy of that stretching between heaven and earth. Mm. Dealing with this dual identity. And still the question, so who am I? So notice how it feels in the heart center to contemplate that question. And as we exit this meditation, we can hold that question in our hearts. And from the heart center, expanding your awareness out to the right, out to the left, but remaining anchored at the heart. Extending, expanding your awareness upward toward the upper reaches of soul, and downward toward the lower tip of the spine and the connection with the earth. This hum. But remaining anchored at the heart. So you can slightly move your fingers, your toes, your head. And when you're ready, you can let your palms come to cover your eyes. And enjoy that for a moment. And then opening your eyes, keeping your gaze fixed on the palms as your hands float down to your lap. So unfolding your legs, giving your body a little attention. Coming back into connection with the where you are, the surroundings, and also with all these little squares on the screen, all the people that are here, even though they're not here, or not here, even though they're here. And take a moment to let your awareness come back to this level of discussion. And then if you have questions or comments or sharing, anything that you would like to offer to the group, just unmute yourself first and then say your name and speak. We welcome everyone's contribution to the discussion. Every question you ask helps other people as well as yourself to understand deeper, all of us. Yes.
Hi.
Yeah,
it's
Jim.
Tom.
Oh, okay. Welcome. Speak up.
Oh, you can't hear me?
I can hear you.
You can hear me now?
Yes.
Okay. Um, uh, well, I do have something that I wanted to share. Um, it's kind of a writing that came to me a while back. Um, it's a little bit long. And so I was wondering if maybe like towards the end, after you guys are finished, maybe I could read it then, because then maybe if people wanted to leave, they could just leave as they see fit.
How long is long?
Well, I haven't timed it. It might take me like 10 minutes, maybe.
Okay. Yeah, well, that's a good idea. We'll wait till other people have spoken and then you have the floor.
Okay. All right. Thank you.
Sure.
All right, just to make this interesting, I'll ask a question. Hello.
Hello.
Hello, I'm Colby. Thank you for hosting this. My question is, Swami, do you make a concerted effort to keep your attention in your heart throughout the day? Or do you move your attention about consciously? Like, oh, I keep my attention sometimes in my head, sometimes in my dantian, sometimes in my heart. What are your recommendations around that?
Well, that's a good question. Thank you. Usually at Dancing Shiva, we do our morning practices and we end our meditation with being in the heart. And the intention is to leave the meditation space and start the day with centered at the heart. Now, during the day, other circumstances may demand other faculties that we have. So we don't always stay in the heart center. But I think it's good to think of it as sort of a home base. And gradually, as we evolve and practice more, we can keep that heart-centeredness going while we're also involved with other chakras. So I think it's a good grounding, so to speak, or base position for dealing with being in the world. It takes a lot of compassion. It takes a lot of compassion to be in the world. Compassion for ourselves, compassion for others, compassion for all the horrible situations that people are dealing with and what they go through. And, you know, there never seems to be an excess of compassion. And so we come back to the heart. So the heart is where compassion lives. And so, yeah, does that help?
Yeah, some of my training focused on keeping my attention in my dantian to increase sense of grounding, power. I can see pluses and minuses to keeping your attention here, especially if you're a people pleaser and overgiver. And so I'm wondering, is it always the place in your method to keep your attention, or is it one of the places to keep your attention?
Well, I'll go back to what I was saying a moment ago, that I think if I were you, I would aim for being in my heart center and at the same time activating the Tantien or the third chakra, or however you want to think of that. They're slightly different. So that your power, as you were saying, or your sense of mastery, can be an expression of your compassion. Yeah.
Thank you.
Sure. Who else would like to speak up?
Swami Ravi, it's Karen.
Yes, Karen.
Hi. In the beginning of the meditation, when we were exploring like our whole body with the breath, I was noticing that like at this point in the day, the left side of my nose was pretty plugged actually. So the air, or right, so the air was coming in through the left a lot, and I was feeling like the air was not getting to like the whole left side of my body, and I was spending a lot of time trying to like breathe into the left side, and I finally just kind of gave up and just breathed. But I'm wondering about that. You know, we do the alternate nose breathing to open both sides, but is that like when we breathe in one side, does it only fill one side of our body, or should it like fill our whole body no matter what's open or plugged?
Great. Thank you for asking that question. I think the first step is to see if you can notice, how do you feel when the breath is primarily through the right nostril? And how do you feel when it's the left? What is the difference in the overall quality of being in your body and act and in the world when it's one versus the other? That's the that's really, there's an opportunity when when one is completely closed to notice, well, what is it like with this other nostril totally open? How does that feel? What's good about it? What feels bad about it?
Mm.
Because it's really the major opportunity here is learning to appreciate what the breath is about and the power of the breath, and how our breathing is affecting how we're living at any given moment. So your noticing that was the first step toward noticing more, noticing, do I feel like I want to breathe through my left nostril, that this right nostril breathing is kind of doesn't feel good right now. So then you're laying the foundations for a deeper understanding of the breath. And certainly, my guess is by the end of the day, people are tired and they're kind of pushing to try to keep going, and so the right nostril being more kind of about exertion and effort is staying open because you're still trying to do all of that. That would be my guess. But, it's a personal thing. Each one of us is a little different. So when you begin to say, yeah, okay, no, I don't want, this doesn't feel good, then you will learn the ways you can use to open the left nostril. Certainly, lying on the right side will do it, or hanging your arm over the back of a chair so that the pressure in your right axilla will open the left nostril, or just bringing your attention to the inner surface of the left nostril and focusing on that, making that sensation predominant in your awareness, and usually the breath will shift there. Yeah, but not just a mechanical reaction, but rather, I like the way that feels. I'm learning the difference between the right and the left. Yeah.
That's very helpful. Thank you.
Yeah, we have a sort of, we start out with a kind of amnesia. When we're breathing through one nostril, we forget what it's like to breathe through the other nostril. And we forget how we're seeing the world when we're in the other nostril. We forget how we react to things when we're in the other nostril. So when we have the opportunity to bring that together so we can be aware of both, is when the nostrils are equal. or the yogis call sushumna. So you can also focus on bringing the attention to the point between the nostrils. And then you have that serenity from which you can feel both. And that is a perfect position for meditation, breathing position for meditation, because you're not split into dichotomy, one dichotomy,
Mm-hmm.
which makes meditation difficult. Yeah.
Yeah, I remember you saying about how it's normal and natural for our nostrils. That's the way we bring balance, is that they open, like the one side will open and then the other side will, like throughout the day. Is it possible to be more with both of them open at the same time?
Well, when they're both open, that's not a good time to engage in the world.
Oh,
Meditate, unless you have slowly developed the facility of dealing with the world at the time you're in a meditative space. And that's a kind of takes some practice.
next
Because,
lifetime.
pardon me?
I said next lifetime.
So, but it's, you see, when we engage with the world, it's like you have a plug and you're going to put it in the wall to get electricity. Well, you insert the prongs into the socket, and then you get the electricity. Well, that's the way you have to do that particular thing, is you engage with it that's a right nostril, kind of more penetrating, more masculine, quote unquote, more assertive, more, and that's not suitable for other things. So the Swara yogis, who work with the breath consciously at every moment of their lives, they're constantly watching that. And so there's some activities that you're not going to do when the breath is in the left nostril. And there's some things you're not going to do when the breath is in the right nostril. So it's really helpful to be aware of that. And, you know, and there are books, there are scriptures that the Shiva Gama that talk about when you want to open the right nostril, when you want to open the left nostril. And so, I mean, I remember my teacher once, he said, well, I have to tell that person da 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 da. And I said, well, why didn't you tell them right now? And he said, no, I have to wait. My breath's not in the right nostril for that.
Wow.
In the so, you know, we don't pay attention to that, so we run into the wall a lot, you know? And we wonder, why are things going? And it's because our gear shift is in the wrong gear for what we're trying to do. So,
Thank
yeah,
you.
yeah, developing awareness of it can be very practical and helpful in life.
Yeah, I see that now. Thank you.
Great. Thank you. So I guess we better give Martin his 10 minutes.
No, it's Tom.
Tom.
It's Tom.
Oh, okay.
Martin's my partner. We had both been using the Zoom thing for something else, so that's why Martin is also on
Yeah,
there.
well, I was just reading the first name on the.
Yeah.
Okay, Tombo.
Can you? Yeah, Tombo. Can you hear me?
Yes, yes. Can everybody hear? Good.
Okay. One of the things I do every day is write, And things come to me that I tend to go back to because I find them helpful, and this is one of them. And so I just thought I would share it right now.
Go ahead.
Like I said, as you guys are ready to leave, you can leave.
All right.
Okay.
Okay.
All right. This came to me about, I guess, a little over a year ago. And I've been going back to it since. It's called Important to Remember. Om. Somewhere in the space and silence between the thoughts and feelings of desire and fear that disturb and often torture me and others, I am okay. And that is where I truly am, regardless of what gross or subtle experience, good, bad, or mixed, is happening, regardless of how it appears to myself or others. The space silence is who, what, where, and when I truly am. That is where healing is. That is where love is. That is where I long to reside, not attached nor averse to the golden cage of illusion that seems to exist all around, the luxury and fake beauty that demands more and more of our time, effort, and attention for its maintenance. And so I continue to strive for nakedness, shameless, naked simplicity, to accept the bitter as it is without needing to change it, to accept the sweet as it is without trying to hold on to it or repeat it, to accept the obstacles, the bondage, and the golden cage as they are without needing their destruction, transformation, or preservation, to accept space and silence as they are, even when they seem to be so polluted that they are difficult to find, to give equal weight to the abstinence and indulgence, accepting that both are necessary, to attempt true and universal love through sacrifice, which does not require any return. What I truly desire can never be fully achieved in the manifest or unmanifest, only pursued with earnest effort and non-effort, endlessly desiring and attempting to sacrifice for true love.
There's smoke upstairs. The alarm may sound.
Desiring and attempting to live by the law of love, which knows when to indulge and when to abstain, when to create and when to destroy, when to hold and when to let
Heads
go.
up. There's smoke upstairs. The alarm may sound. It's going to be loud.
What's that? And I don't know what that was.
Yeah, hold on one second.
Smoke alarm silenced upstairs.
Okay, sorry about that.
Hmm.
Okay, let me get back to that.
Silenced.
Okay, sorry. Okay, I'm going back to it now. Um, technical difficulties. What I truly desire can never be fully achieved in the manifest or unmanifest, only pursued with earnest effort and non-effort, endlessly desiring and attempting to sacrifice for true love, desiring and attempting to live by the law of love, which knows when to indulge and when to abstain, when to create and when to destroy, when to hold and when to let go, when to fight and when to surrender. The world, nature, civilization, does not owe me happiness, pleasure, or safety, owes me absolutely nothing, regardless of what I have deluded myself into believing that I have sacrificed to it or endured for it. So what? I have endured pleasure and pain. They come and go. People, things, states of being come and go. And I appear, even to myself, to do and experience things, but it's not really true. So what? Talents and virtues and vices and things of beauty and ugliness and healing and injury, love and hate, happiness and sadness, rational and irrational, fair and unfair, honest and dishonest, innumerable varying degrees of opposites, have happened around me, by me, and to me. I have spent a considerable amount of time and effort trying to pursue and own the things that I like or am proud of, and avoid and disown the things that I don't like or am ashamed of. But truly, ownership is only something that the mind has made up. I own absolutely none of it, and I own absolutely all of it. Life happens, death happens, the illusion happens, blah, blah, blah. The world, as I perceive it, is merely a mistaken view of reality. I, as I perceive it, is merely a mistaken view of reality. I do not expect truth from the world or my mind, nor do I expect them to make sense or change, or remain the same, or reward me or punish me in any particular way. At a certain point, causality and blame do not apply. Consciousness is not true happiness, is not true peace nor happiness. Consciousness just happens. And in truth, there is absolutely nothing personal about it. Creation, destruction, preservation, tamas, raja, sattva, om. I realize that all I am trying to do is make the words that I write true by living them and manifesting them through action and being. I know, but sometimes forget that I will never be able to fully achieve them. And I confess that many of my past, present, and future actions are not in line with them. And I often struggle with and try to avoid or deny the shame, anger, and sadness that seem to be an inevitable part of the experience. Fortunately, I at least sometimes remember that all I can do is give an earnest and honest attempt, striving for love beyond likes and dislikes, trying to move beyond the pleasure, pain, desire, fear, motivation, having the human experience of balancing the primal urges and divine desires. I don't see any end to the cycle of births and deaths, goals, effort, manifestation, fruits, disillusionment, as I will always desire and attempt to do just one fucking true thing motivated purely by love. When the false way that I experience and perceive things subsides, I must admit that others are doing the exact same thing, regardless of outward appearances of beauty or ugliness, pleasure or pain, virtue or vice, yogic or non-yogic practice, or tamasic, rajasic, or sattvic awareness. The limited perception of me, mind ego, can never know the true motives behind an action, even its own, nor anyone or anything's true influence or purpose. I am thankful for the mercy in the world that allows us to attempt all our paths, regardless of how messy it gets or how it may appear to my limited personal perception. I confess that I say that I want truth and to perform a true sacrifice for love, but I still find myself wanting to run away and resorting to familiar modes of avoidance and denial when I'm experiencing the gross and subtle pain of illusion. I often attribute the pain to living life with other people in the modern world, but it also happens when I'm alone, and a more primitive or natural way of life would present its own set of challenges which would appear to cause some kind of pain or unhappiness and discontentment. For the person me, the pain seems to be an inevitable experience of mind. My mind may always have a habit of judging other people, and it may always hate itself for various failures of self-discipline, like overeating, various acts of gross and subtle violence, laziness, and not being more content and more loving. It will probably always be prone to experience bouts of strong feelings of anger and hatred, which will distort its view of things and prevent clarity and sanity. I frequently struggle with strong feelings of anger, usually regarding the bondage of home, work, and social commitments. It seems like the anger is an indication of the fact that I still have attachment to and expectations of the world, other people, or myself, based on sacrifices that I feel I have made, or simply because what I see and experience is not what I personally like or deem appropriate or just. I may never really understand its purpose or message. Part of me really just wants it to go away. But for Tom, it seems to be an inevitable part of participating in the never-ending birth-death cycle, hope, imagination, effort, fruits, and disillusionment. I often feel like a failure at love, to the point where I hesitate to even talk about it, because I feel like I really don't know what it is. I don't like to talk about love too much, or even say I love you to people, because I feel like a liar. I feel that I can only attempt to do things that show it, like endure some kind of pain and give some of the fruits of that pain away. What happens is that I consume some, share some, and try to save some. Whatever I have done in ignorance accumulates and eventually explodes and causes some kind of pain or turmoil. I try sometimes to change the pattern, but self-effort only goes so far. I don't see that I will be able to change that pattern, and I don't know if it's my place to decide that.
Okay.
Thanks for listening, everybody.
So I would say yes, this sounds like part of a process of asking, who am I? And I think that you know your process is going to lead somewhere, even though I hear these I will probably never. However, if you continue the practices, you may end up in a different place than what you can imagine right now. So maybe it's not appropriate to say I can never, because you don't know. There is where you are standing, it has its frustrations, but there may be a whole different place that you will discover if you continue your meditations to stand that you hadn't imagined. So make room for that possibility.
All right.
Thank you, Tom. And thank you all for coming tonight. And next week, we will be moving on to the next question. Why am I here? And that's going to be interesting. So I look forward to seeing you next week.
Thank
Everybody-
you.
Yeah, if everyone wants to unmute and say goodbye, you can do that.
Bye.
Good night, everyone.
Bye. Good night.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Thank you. Good night.
Thank you. Good night.
Good night.